welcome to the Women in EdTech podcast with the wonderful Wakelet Wonder Women. So we have Emily, VP of Marketing and Growth. We have Helen, who is Email Marketing Manager. And we have Amy, who's Community Manager, all at Wakelet. And I'm so excited to have you as my very first guest on this podcast. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you, Tisha. Nice to be here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. I'm looking forward to this.
Yep.
Yeah, so we're just going to get right into it. And I'm going to have you tell me about someone in your life that has inspired you. So I know we have different career paths, we have different histories, we are all different ages, but I would love to know about someone who inspired you in your life and maybe still inspires you today.
Ooh, who's going first? Everyone just kind of looks at each other like, ooh. I will go. Speaking of someone who inspires me, well, there's many people around me on a day-to-day who I'm inspired by, but I think I'm going to, as maybe cliche as it sounds, but very much true, it's going to have to be my mum. My mum's a big inspiration to me. She's a very hard worker. She's where I get, I think I get my work ethic from, and she's just so nice. She's one of those people who will do anything for anyone, and we have to remind her to do things for herself. She's one of these people who goes shopping and will look, she'll be, oh, that'll look good on you, that'll look good on you. But I'm like, Mum, get something for yourself, and you kind of have to remind her. But she's just always been a very, very kind, very loving woman. And she's just always my go-to if I need someone for that support. And she's one of those people, like, we can never admit it when we're younger. But I think the whole, your parents know you better than you know yourself sometimes. I didn't think that was true until a couple of years ago. And I was like, yeah, my mum knows. Like, she's clued in, and she's just like my go-to. So if I could be half as kind as her, which I hope I do. But yeah, she's a big inspiration to me. Inspiration.
That's awesome, Amy. Do you when you're thinking about the personality traits that you have, is there any one thing that stands out that that you mimic after your mom that either maybe you love or maybe you wish that you weren't exactly the same as her?
No, yeah, I think the older I'm getting, again, I have a lot of things like my housemate, because they've met and things like that, and I'll say little expressions, and they're always like, "Oh, do you sound like your mum?" And just our little quirks and how we take too long to tell stories. We take far too long. We go off on tangents, bless us. And I laugh at her for it. But now I see myself doing the same thing. And I'm sure you guys can probably vouch for it because you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But yeah, I mean, no, I can see a lot of myself more in her, the older I get, and just those little quirks and things like that, which I think a good thing. Sometimes I'm like, oh gosh, but and the love of animals is a big one as well. She's a big pet lover.
Oh yeah.
If I'm not showing everyone around the office pictures of my dog, then I don't know what else.
Do you only have one dog?
Yeah, up here in Manchester, but down south with my mum and dad, I've got 3. So yeah, always been pet lovers.
Well, very good. Thank you, Amy. That's a great story. We may come back to the dog.
I mean, to be honest, I have to stop myself because otherwise, you guys know, I'll just keep going on a pet, on a pet, chatting about them. So I'll keep that one for another time.
Okay, Helen.
I'd say thinking back when I was at university, I had a tutor who was very inspirational to me. He sort of pushed us a lot to sort of go out of our comfort zones when, it's easy to sort of stay within your area, but he was like very keen to push us as much as we could. And at the time it was a little bit sort of daunting because you would get put in sort of projects that you weren't quite sure how you were going to like manage it and things. But, looking back, I was so grateful that he did sort of push us in that way. So I'd say just, thinking about where I've come in terms of like my career and working and things, a lot of it is due to him sort of like pushing me when I was at university. So yeah, not as wholesome as talking about, like my mum as well does inspire me. But yeah, thinking about it, it was definitely my tutor at university.
Are you still in contact with him?
Yeah, from time to time. He sort of calls upon all the people that have done the course in the past to like help with the graduates that are going through it at the minute. So yeah, it's quite nice that he's created like a community around that course, really. So yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah,
that's so nice because now you're inspiring them.
Yeah, hopefully,
which is nice.
Yeah, it's like you're paying it forward, right? You're paying forward what he gave to you to the other people around you. That's awesome. Yeah. And now rounding out our first question, we have Emily.
Yes. So I don't have one person that's inspired me through my life. I think there's been I take inspiration from lots of different people actually every day, which is nice. And I'm going to do a Wakelet plug here because the whole team at Wakelet are amazing to work with. It's one of the reasons I chose to come. So every day somebody does something that's inspiring, and I think that's just a wonderful environment to work in. But yeah, I think in the early days it would have been family members, so people like you said, Amy, like my mum. I do look up to my mum and the way that she kind of handled her career and her family, and made sure that I knew that I could do anything that I put my mind to. Going slightly off piece there, actually my dad is as much of an inspiration as my mum was when I was younger. I think I said this to you, Tish, when we were on a call the other day. You know, he gave my mum space to do that, and actually them as a partnership I found really inspiring about how you can balance family life with fun and with kind of work life as well, and kind of be successful. And I thank them for pushing me out of my comfort zone when I was little, because I was quite shy. I'm still quite shy actually. People don't notice anymore. I speak too much now. But yeah, I'm naturally quite shy. So they pushed me really, really hard when I was younger. Made sure I went to loads of clubs. Made sure I did loads of kind of things that I wouldn't have been comfortable with. And I'm so grateful for that, because I don't think I would be the person I am today. And then more recently, kind of some of my bosses in my last few jobs, I've had one kind of male boss who was really, really supportive, quite critical, but kind of in a positive way, if that makes sense. Quite sort of, you know, pushed me again outside of my comfort zone, pushed me to do more, take on more responsibility, even if I wasn't sure I could do it. And he was sort of, he was the one that always said, ask for forgiveness, not permission. So kind of like give something a go. If you don't know that you can do it, that's the thing you should be doing. And then a female boss who very similarly was really encouraging, really kind of taught me to kind of, and one of her phrases was, go for the job you want, not the one you've got, you know, kind of always be ambitious and push yourself. And I think all of those people through my life have kind of got me to where I am now, and I hope I hope that continues. Don't want to stop.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that I think you guys really, and I'm trying to not say you guys, so I'm actually working on that because I have people around me, right, making us better. One of the things that I really notice about all of your stories is you had people who believed in you, even maybe when you didn't believe in yourself, and pushing you to do that. I think that's very common for a lot of us in ed tech, where we had certain people believing in us before we ever believed that we could do that thing maybe that we're doing now. Would you guys agree with that? You ladies, I'm working on it.
It's tough, yeah, it is. But no, yeah, I agree. I think, and that's the best people to have around you, those who, because we can be our own worst enemies. So, you know, when you are having those moments of self-doubt and things like that, it's nice to surround yourself with people who are going to pick you up and believe in you when you may not actually, believe in yourself. So
yeah, it's easy to shy away from a challenge, but after you complete it and look back, you're normally very, very proud and happy that you've pushed yourself. So, yeah.
Wow, you all had great answers. I'm very similar to Emily. I don't have just one person. I think I have a multitude of people that sort of guided me along the way. But much like Helen, I had a professor. I was in the ed tech space as a college student long before the internet was even what it is today. And I maybe had the foresight to know that I needed to get into technology. But I was telling Emily, I remember being in a class with all male students when I entered this program in college. It was me and just one other female student. And I remember being so intimidated because I didn't feel like I was going to be able to do it. But I know I had to do it because I needed the degree, right? And so I remember going in there very much like all of you, just unsure. And then in walked my professor, who was a female professor, and her name is Lynn Mason. I have to shout her out because the truth is, I think back to that moment, she let me come in her office every day to learn programming. I was learning C++ and Visual Basic, and that was not something I even set out to do. I just wanted to teach computers, but she taught me that I could do so much more, and just so many people very similar to her along the way, and very similar to Emily. My dad really instilled this work ethic in me, and really gave me the space, I think, to make mistakes and know that it was okay. But even now, I'm still learning that same lesson. Are any of you still learning maybe the same lesson that you learned when you were younger? Do you have any examples?
I'm definitely still learning, still definitely making mistakes and getting better. A couple of things that stand out to me was when, bit of an embarrassing story here, but when I was at primary school, my teacher used to call me Miss Perfection. I was kind of like class pet, and I hated it, absolutely hated it, because the moment that I got something wrong or I went to answer a question, the whole class would laugh at me. They'd be like, she got one wrong. And I hated every single moment of it, even though that teacher actually was great. I really liked her, but I really hated her for that one thing she did, because I think actually I'm still battling that in terms of I am still slightly afraid to say something if I don't know what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of something that I'm still working on, and I still, I'm kind of have to fight myself each time to speak up sometimes, which seems crazy, and those of you that know me at Wakelet probably don't see that so much, but it's quite an effort for me to do that, to kind of step outside and put my head up a bit. I don't know.
Yeah,
so I think that's definitely one I still battle.
Would have never thought it, but yeah, in a similar way, I was a little bit perfectionist when I was at school, and I just put a silly amount of pressure on myself. It wasn't coming from my parents, it wasn't coming from friends or family. I knew they loved me no matter what, but yeah, I just put a weird amount of pressure on myself, and I was very, I'd get ready and just to go along with stories and things like that, but I was very, I got really silly with homework and things like that. If I couldn't work it out, my mum and dad would have to take homework away from me. Like, purely because I'd get so, yeah, exactly. Because I'd be getting so frustrated and upset with myself. I mean, I didn't, that was when I was much younger. But yeah, I suppose small parts of that resonate. I mean, I don't, start kicking and screaming now.
Often.
Excuse me, no, not often. only secretly. But yeah, just having those doubts and a little bit like you said, Emily, about, not being 100% sure. Like, even though we're so happy to say to other people, oh, well, even if it's wrong, just say it. It might be something that people are thinking, or just voice it. No one's going to think anything less of you if you just voice that. But yeah, I still have that little niggly, I like to be exactly sure, and I like to know what I'm doing. And sometimes when you're learning a new thing, obviously it's not going to come completely.
You'd never judge someone who was wrong at a time. So yeah, it's interesting how we're harsh on ourselves.
Yeah, because I would never turn around and say, that's wrong. Yeah, but well, unless I need to, but no, like someone saying something out of place or something, but not like a that's wrong thing.
It's hard to take your own advice a lot of the time. Like, it's easier to give advice than to listen to your own advice.
So true. How about you?
I agree with that. I very similar. I battled the exact same things. We've talked about this. I think all four of us are Enneagram personalities. I know you all know that I'm a 1. And the thing about Enneagram 1s is that we are perfectionists. And I'm constantly doing self-talk, telling myself it doesn't have to be perfect. As I've gotten older, I feel like I've really been better about that. So maybe I'm not complaining about when my family loads the dishwasher the wrong way. So I just let it go. I'm working on it slowly, step by step, little by little. But you're right, Helen. I mean, we're much better at giving advice to the people around us than we are about taking our own advice. And I have so many questions, but I really want to know this question now. Do any of you, what do you do to battle that voice inside your head, that perfectionist voice? Do you, do you have affirmations? What do you do to really overcome those challenges when you're of self-doubt, I guess?
I think for me, the hardest part sometimes is starting something. So like as soon as you start, you just get on with it, and you're not as scared to fail because you're in the process of, doing the thing. You can put off starting, and procrastination is a big one for like failure anyway. If you don't start, then how can you?
You can't succeed.
Yeah. So I guess for me, it's just like trying to start and just like having a go. Don't be scared. Learn from the process, and just try to not overthink, I guess. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's
feel the fear. Feel the fear and do it anyway. Yeah. That's what I used to tell my students, but it's much harder to take that advice.
I think the thing I normally remind myself is I don't have time to panic. I just have to get on with it. In a lot of things that we do, it's quite time pressured. So I just sort of think I'm wasting time here. I just need to get on with it, which is also hard to do. But I find sometimes if I tell people I'm doing it, it forces me because I'm committing to it out loud. If that makes sense.
Yeah. And also in the same way, like I actually tell I'm better now at telling someone if I'm struggling with it, because 9 times out of 10, if it will say something like, we've spoken about Tish, like about being nervous about webinars or something like that, 9 times out of 10, if you speak to someone about it, they've probably experienced it similar before, and then you feel not as, I suppose, alone and alienated about it, and you can kind of say like, well, this person having it, it's a normal emotion, it's a normal feeling, and I can get over it.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I have affirmations, honestly, everywhere. On my mirror, I have them on my phone where they automatically will play, because it is, sometimes you can get in your head, and like you said, Emily, you procrastinate. And I think perfectionism, especially people who are perfectionists, they will procrastinate because they do not want to even attempt it if it isn't perfect, right? And one of the things I've been telling myself, especially the last year, is just start. It's not going to be perfect. I have to tell myself that up front. So getting something out there is much better, right? Yeah. Getting it out there and doing it doesn't have to be perfect, but it's a lot of that inner self-dialogue that we have to be intentional about, for sure. Mm-hmm. So the next question is, what are each of you reading or listening to? And do you recommend any particular books or podcasts or even movies to our listeners?
You're not looking at each other.
Yeah, because we did maybe have a little chat about this. But I'm actually still going off of your recommendation, Tish, because for those of you who don't know,
it's about to come out.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, a few of us are big sort of true crime fans. I mean, not like, Die Hard or anything like that, but yeah, I really love that podcast you sent me, Tish. I'm like on episode 6 already or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah, no, I'm making my way through it. I love having a podcast on the go, just generally, because sometimes I find it really stressful to find that right song in the morning. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, oh, well, if I've got a podcast, it just kind of gets my brain ticking. So I'm really liking that Crime Junkies one that you sent. So I recommend that for any true crime fans. It's really good because it kind of condenses it into that 45 minutes. I love that.
We do. I know that there are some, because I think you've talked to some of our ambassadors, right? About different podcasts.
I think it was actually a webinar where I had up the true crime podcast, a collection that I had, and then it got picked up on a meeting, and I ended up chatting to him about it. Everyone loves a bit of true crime, whether you admit it or not.
They're closeted true crimers.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah, well, I do as well, Amy, because we talk about it most Monday mornings, catch up on what we've watched over the weekend and which series are good. So I'll try and think of something different though. Weirdly, I don't read that much in a professional sense. I feel like I always should, but I don't feel that. I feel like when I read or I watch something or I listen to something, it's because I want to switch off from that as opposed to carry on. So I'll read articles and things at work in sort of snippets, but I find it quite difficult actually to sit down and read a whole book. So if anyone's got any tips for that, that'd be great. But yeah, otherwise, I suppose fiction is what I read more, but I tend to read when I'm travelling or on holiday, and because we haven't really done that for a while, I feel like I've not been reading anything, which is really sad actually.
Yeah. No, well, we were saying earlier, I kind of have to, it's like that not starting something, but then once you get into it, you realise, I really missed reading. But I was saying to the guys earlier that I have just started reading James Acaster, who is a comedian in the UK, Tish. But he is very funny and it's very easy. So I kind of started to just, complete difference to the true crime. Just try to ease my way back into reading with something very light, hearted and very easy reading. And so far so good. It's nice. It's a nice mellow one.
I've not been reading much, but listening to audiobooks. So that's been my way of like getting back into reading, I guess, in a way. But read Trevor Noah's autobiography. That's very interesting. And a audiobook on, it's called Why We Sleep. So it's like a non-fiction book written by a neuroscientist and a sleep expert. And it sounds very scientific, but it's easy to read or easy to listen to. And it's just going into like all the science behind what happens when we do sleep and sleep cycles and how it affects your brain and how it affects your performance within the day. Obviously we all know we need to sleep, but it's quite interesting to hear the actual like science behind it and how important it is to get into like a healthy sleep routine, because I think we're all guilty of getting 5 hours sleep and then thinking, I'll be fine. But then it is interesting to see how it does affect your brain and your performance over time as well. So yeah, I'm trying to get into a better sleep habit. But yeah, it's interesting. Just because what I do day to day is more, obviously marketing and more creative. It's quite nice to read about science and stuff like that.
That's really
Emily and I talk about that all the time.
We do.
If we have a super creative week where we're creating something, I will tell her I need this. I have this need for organization or like planning or going into HubSpot and like being super productive. But I'm with you, Helen. I read nonfiction probably more now than ever. Just because I feel like it is a switch. But I will tell you, I just bought a creative book. We'll have to put it in the show notes. It is about Pixar, Disney's Pixar, and kind of the creative process. It was recommended to me, and then I'm reading a book. It's nonfiction called The Mountain Is You. And so again, I'm always trying to be better because I'm the Enneagram 1. So I'm always reading something that challenges me and to have better habits. Speaking of habits, I think, have you guys read Atomic Habits? That's a really popular book I keep hearing about. So we'll have to do a book study. Maybe it will be good for all of us. Book club. Yeah, that's a great idea. Oh, I do have a question that was not planned. No plan. I told you guys to be ready. Okay, so I am very similar to Amy in the COVID, the lockdown, remote learning in 2020. Everything was so sad, and I still feel like I'm in that space when I go on social media often. I really battle because being on social media is part of our jobs, but I also just sometimes get so overwhelmed by the sadness that's happening in the world. So I have intentionally picked comedy on TV to watch. So I know that The Office originated with the UK, but I still watch The Office over here, the American version, and all the time. And then there is a TV show. I don't know if you guys have this over there, Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of that? Yeah. And then Schitt's Creek, which I've talked about pretty often. That one always makes me laugh. But recently, and James just sent me a WhatsApp message talking about this show because I've been telling all of you to watch it. It's called Ted Lasso. Have any of you seen that?
I haven't. No, I've heard about it, but I've not.
I think I've heard of it from you.
Yes,
but no, I haven't watched it yet. Yeah,
I cannot wait for you to see it because Jason Sudeikis is incredible in it, and he moves from Kansas to I forget exactly the town. I don't know that it's a real town, but he goes and he coaches football, soccer. And it just makes me laugh. It's so funny, but he's so genuine, and it's just a really great, good-hearted show. And so I'm like you, Amy, I need to switch it up sometimes from the true crime.
Yeah, you do need sometimes the ones that are just, you can just turn your brain off and have a giggle. And Friends is always my go-to for it. You know, when I just want to turn off. I don't have to, worry. I've watched it about 20 times over, like a lot of people. So, but it still never fails to make me laugh. So
it's
easy
so
watching.
Intriguing to me, Amy. And I'm really going to age myself. So I guess here we go. When Friends was on, and it came on, and you had to watch it on the day it came on because there was no recording of anything, right? You either missed it or not. I never would have anticipated back then, so far away, that it would still be so popular and timely today. At my age, it just blows my mind. And I think that is good TV when it is timeless. And my kids as adults maybe will enjoy some of the shows I just listed off.
I think that's so true. That's so true, Tisha. I think I was watching the Friends reunion. I guess everyone's probably watched that as well. But I was thinking about it. Like, it's still so relatable. Like there's still an episode for every situation that you go through in life, isn't there? And you can kind of relate to some of the things that are happening. And it was really before its time in terms of some of the themes they tackle as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great TV. Like,
yeah.
And you just fall in love with the characters, don't you? Because they're just all different, but they highlight pieces of what you see in other people, or sometimes even yourself. So it's always fun to watch and be like, yeah, do that.
It's crazy how often it's quoted as well, just in like conversation.
Yeah.
Like it comes up in little snippets, just jokes and things. But
I literally just got bought a how you doing mug for birthday, which is in July. So I'm still still being brought.
It fascinates me. And I don't know, back then, everybody wanted the Jennifer Aniston haircut, right? That was the big thing. And I think back to that now, and I think I was one of those people going to the hairstylist saying, make me look like Jennifer Aniston, please. It still hasn't panned out for me, but okay. So we're going to kind of circle back because all three of you touched on this topic and now really want to dive a little bit deeper into it. So I want to hear about your thoughts on failure and how you believe failure has shaped you. And then any advice that you have for our listeners if they are feeling like they are a failure. I feel like a lot of us go through that cycle where we just feel like we're failing over and over. So I would love to hear how it has shaped you in your life.
That's a good one. I actually mentioned to my other half last night that I was going to be answering a question about failure, and his response was, well, you won't like that one, Emily, don't you? Because you don't like failing, do you? I was like, so that probably tells you quite a lot about my relationship with that word. But I think it stems back to the story I told you earlier. It's just something I try and avoid at all costs. But I think what I've tried to do, and I'm getting better at as I get older, is to think of it as a learning exercise. So if you think of it's not just succeed or fail, it's learn, and that could be positive and that could be negative, but you can take that kind of failure point and say, okay, that's what I'd do differently next time, or perhaps that wasn't the right way to go about it, and take it as an opportunity to get better, and that's the way I think about it, as opposed to just being really sad about the fact it didn't turn out the way you wanted, because you've still moved yourself on. I think I'll get this quote horrifically wrong now, but I think there's a quote about Thomas Edison inventing the light bulb, and it says something like, he didn't just invent one way to create a light bulb, he found a million ways not to. And it's kind of that kind of way of thinking about it, I think is quite helpful.
I think as well, if you're feeling like a failure, it's important to try and step away and do something that you enjoy, that you can just enjoy the process of doing. So if it's like painting or, drawing or just something creative that is away from, a screen or, just something where you can do it almost mindlessly and enjoy like the process of creating something. Because obviously when we were little children, we all used to enjoy doing things like that, and you'd never say to a child, oh, that painting isn't very good. It's like the child's enjoying just the act of being creative. So I think being able to step away and maybe just doing something for the joy of it, as opposed to, oh, this needs to have value or needs to fulfill a purpose, can be really helpful, just to sort of spark creativity and make you remember that it's not all about results and progress. Sometimes you can do things just for the joy of doing it, really.
I suppose it takes the pressure off a little bit as well. Sort of takes that need to get it right, and you can just literally, like you said, like you said, mindlessly, like sometimes like turning off for a little bit and doing something that you just know you can
have a little colour in.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But similar to what you were saying, Emily, about sort of like looking at those and taking them and making them sort of learning opportunities. I suppose every time I think of or moments in my life where I felt like I'd failed, I now look back at them and see them as completely different things. So when I do feel like I'm failing now, I kind of think to myself, well, at that point in your life, you thought you were failing, or you thought you'd failed at whatever I was doing. And then I look back at it now and I was like, okay, maybe it didn't pan out exactly how I wanted it to. And, I didn't follow the route I was meant to, well, I thought I was meant to, or something like that. But looking back now, because of what happened or because of me failing, it resulted in something better. And it resulted in me taking a different direction and being where I am now. So, which, is a win for me. So, I kind of think if I'm in the middle of getting stuck on something, or I feel like I'm failing, I kind of look back on those moments and think, well, you thought you were failing that. Yeah, exactly. And kind of think, that turned out okay. Pretty decent, actually. So I'm all good. And they always feel really bad in the moment. And that's probably one thing I'd say. I think everyone's experienced that, where at the moment it feels like, it's the worst thing ever, and you're failing and there's nothing you can do about it, and you're getting down and out on yourself and things, but you come out of it and then you reflect on it, and it's always better in the end. It's always okay.
I think you can feel worse for not trying as well.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
That's a good point.
At least if you try and you fail, it's better than thinking, well, I didn't attempt that as fully as I could have done. Yeah.
Wise words from Helen. Wow. That's great. That's great advice for our listeners. Okay, so this one might be a little bit difficult as well. It's a 2-for-1. So this question, what is your biggest win? Because we just finished talking about failure, but now let's bring it up a notch to winning. And then what is something that you dream to do?
Super hard question. I'll try and go first. So my biggest wins are, well, I always used to say it was my university degree, but I don't think it actually is anymore. That was always the thing that I was most proud of. But I think actually the thing my biggest win now is buying my house. I know that sounds really silly, but I worked super hard to be able to afford to do that. In a place where I wanted to be as well, kind of, and spent quite a long time away from my family, and whilst I was sort of trying to achieve that. And I think the first day I walked in, I was like, yes. I know that sounds like a really silly, trivial thing, and it's definitely one of those like first world situations, but I was really proud of myself for getting there, because I'd had no help from, other people. I'd not been given any money or anything like that. I'd kind of worked hard to get there. And I think I cherish it that much more because of that. don't know if that's a very good one, but I think that is actually one of my biggest wins now.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
It's like that independence as well.
Yeah,
Because you
exactly.
you set for it, and it's something that you got on your own, and you did it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's my space, and it's kind of, I don't know, there's something nice about that. Because it was hard to do as well. It wasn't an easy thing. My dream for the future. My dreams are always, it's like an interview question when someone says, where are you going to be in 5 years? And I can never answer these questions very well. Because I don't really have like a place in mind, or like a role I want to be, or like, certainly professionally, I just want to keep learning and improving and getting better. That's kind of, I don't really see a ceiling, if that makes sense. So there's kind of that side of it. But I think I just want to be happy and have people that are happy around me and be able to positively influence those people. I think that's, if I can look back on my life and say that I've done that, I think I'd be really proud. So I know that's very vague and a bit gushy, but that's how I feel.
Yeah.
Makes a change, it's not me doing it. But no, I agree.
I like what Emily said about, there is no ceiling. I think that's such a great message for this podcast, because anybody that's listening, there is no ceiling. And what's right for Emily and her big dream may not be right for Amy, right? I always say there is a way, not the way. And I think a lot of times we get stuck in thinking that we have to be exactly like the other person. So maybe we walk away from this podcast and think, oh, we need to have a house just like Emily, but maybe that isn't for us, right? And learning to kind of individually find our purpose and our happiness. Great point, Emily, great point.
Yeah. And I think that's what's nice about having dreams, because for everyone, they're very personal, very individual as well. It could, in someone else's eyes, it could be quite a small thing, but it could be a massive thing for someone else. So, what may be a dream for you might, be something else for someone else. But yeah, it's nice. Speaking of which, so I'd say my biggest win, maybe not one like big achievement or anything like that, but moving to Manchester was a big one for me. Stepping away from where I grew up and things like that. And I was coming originally for university, but I decided to stick here. I fell in love with the place. So, and from that, I've got the people around me who, I do every day and who I live with, and I've made sort of my own like family up here as well, which I actually really love. So that's a big win for me. I never thought, I always wanted to live in a city. I was fairly close to London, but not like too close. It was like a weekend here and there. But I fell in love with Manchester as soon as I sort of like come up for my uni interview. So for me to now look back, that was 8, nearly 9 years ago, and still be here and still very much love it and love the people who I have around me, it's a big win. And not sort of think, oh, I need to go home now. No, this is home now, so that's nice. Because I would have never have thought that, when I first moved up, I thought, I'll be here for my 3 years of uni and then probably go home, but no, love it here. And then
nice little northern accent.
I know, and I do. I swing into it sometimes when I'm talking about Manchester. See, you've rubbed off on me, Manchester. I go home and apparently they pick it up. My mum and dad pick it up quite a bit. But I feel like it's a weird thing that I do. Like it's not even a conscious thing anymore. But anywho, yes. Biggest dreams. Again, it's kind of like an ideology thing about being happy. It's not for me like one thing that I want to do, particularly or anything like that. But yeah, it will just be in a position in my life where I'm happy, and I am now. And I also want to travel more as well. That would probably be a big one if it's going to sort of put a pin in something. I want to see more. I want to be able to sort of travel around and see some of those lovely things that you see on Instagram and actually go to those places. Yeah.
Right, Amy?
Yeah, exactly.
She wants to go to Austin and Nashville.
They are on the list. Because I always say I join these webinars, and I love seeing like where everyone's from, because it kind of like it gives me like ideas of where I'd go to. So now the list has got even longer. Every webinar I'm on, I'm like, oh, I've seen another one that I want to go to. Before I started this role, I was like, just a few. And now I'm like, I'm going to Alaska and all sorts of places. So
Hawaii, right? We all want to go to Hawaii.
Yeah.
World tour.
That'll be a group one. But yeah, that's something I want to do in the future.
I guess mine is similar as what we've been talking about. Biggest win, I used to think as well it was doing my degree, which is a win. But now I think more just sort of being independent and building a life, and sort of since the lockdown happened, you spend a lot of time like reflecting on, your current situation and your sort of support group, and you sort of realise how far you've come since, I moved to Manchester when I was 18. I've been here for like 12, 13 years now. And it's easy to just not see how much you've sort of grown in that time. I think just being able to be independent financially as well as sort of emotionally, and, having that nice group of friends and family around. And in terms of thinking about the future, I guess it's just building on that sort of independence again. Not to have to worry about money, as in a sense would be, obviously everyone would love that. But I guess, it's just being able to be sort of free to explore different projects, and have like the time to do that as well as obviously like financial. But I think it's more a mindset as opposed to like wanting, material things necessarily. Quite
I'm
a big
interested
question.
what yours is, Tisha.
Yeah.
'Cause I know what it was, but you've achieved one.
My biggest win, I thought about this question when I sent it over to all of you, and I think just like all of you, I got this degree from UNT just a couple of years ago, and that was one of my goals. Of course, I had super silly goals as well as a kid, to meet Harry Connick Jr. I don't know if you know Harry Connick Jr., but he has been the love of my life since I was 16. I got to meet him. I met New Kids on the Block. That's a whole nother podcast. I think if you can go listen to Jake Miller's podcast with me. I talk a little bit about that. So I've had a ton of goals in my life, but I think the biggest win is raising 3 incredible human beings. As a kid, I didn't realize what a responsibility that was. And a lot of people don't know, I wasn't in a family where I was really being uplifted all the time or empowered all the time. So a lot of that was intrinsic. It was within me. And I was just lucky enough to have a lot of great teachers and mentors along the way. And so becoming a mom for me was super scary, probably the scariest thing I've ever done, because I wasn't actually ready. I was 23 when I became a mom. And now my daughter, my oldest daughter, is going to be 21. And I think back and think I had no idea what I was doing. The fact that I can look back and go, all 3 of my children are going to be able to, just really make society a better place and make the people around them a better place. I just feel like that is my proudest thing. That is my biggest win, because it is not easy. It's really exhausting. So shout out to all the parents out there who are like feeling like they're barely keeping above water, especially when school starts, because it's a whole different, that season's crazy. But, and then my biggest dream, I'm super happy. I feel like I have a naturally happy personality. And I think I read a quote this weekend that when you see people giving a lot of grace or being very joyous or grateful, a lot of times it is because they have had the opposite experience growing up or in their life. And I think that really is a testament to me. I'm always happy, even when it's really sad. Being a childhood cancer mom, I think a lot of times people forget that I was a childhood cancer mom with my youngest son. And so I've seen, really super sad times, but I always try to find that gratitude. My biggest dream is to write a book. and I don't even really know what that book is. And it isn't really, I don't think about the material of the book. I think it's more so the process for me, because it is probably the most difficult process I've ever seen. So I celebrate all the authors out there. I know we have a couple of ambassadors who have some books coming out, and watching them go through that process, honestly, is just so, I'm just so mesmerized by it. And I just am in awe of them, because that process is not easy from beginning to end. So that is sort of my own personal challenge. But I like all of you, I just, really want to be happy and just enjoy life and remember what there is to be grateful for. So
I would read that book, by the way, Tish.
Which one? Oh,
I would read your book, 100%.
I can't. The thing is, Amy, there's so many things I could write about. I mean, I have been approached to write about student leadership. I get asked about that all the time. But I also have this other side to me, right? These personal stories. And I just can never decide what the topic is. So don't know that it's ever going to happen, but it is a dream that I have.
Just Tish's stories.
Right? Just a bunch of stories. So I have some rapid fire questions, and here are the rules on this. Okay. Now, if you know me, I love Brene Brown, and this is really where I got the idea from. Brene Brown, if I'm recommending anything to anybody, I'm telling you to read that. As a leader, as a female, as a woman in leadership and ed tech, Brene Brown has so many great nuggets of inspiration and wisdom. She always asks her guests some rapid fire questions. And so I'm going to ask you some rapid fire questions. And the rule here is that you can only answer with a couple of words, and you cannot elaborate. So you can't elaborate on it. I know. We're all looking at Amy. So I have 5 rapid fire questions. And so are you all ready? Helen?
Yep.
Okay. Here we go. So we're going to start with Emily, and then we're going to go to Helen, then we're going to go to Amy. Okay. So complete this sentence. Technology is blank.
Amazing.
Okay.
Engaging.
Versatile.
Oh, nice, Amy. So you had a bit of time to think about yours.
I did. But I can't elaborate. Stop.
And now we're going to switch it up, and Amy's going to go first on the next question.
Okay. This is where it all falls down. Not as impressed now.
Okay. All right, Amy. Your favorite meal?
Pizza. It's not, but okay, yeah, pizza.
I was going to say pizza. Italian.
Anything with cheese.
Yeah.
Everybody knows I love tacos.
Tacos,
yes, tacos all the time. Tacos, everybody knows it. Even before I became part of Team Wakelet, I was like all about tacos. So I can create any type of taco you want. And I'm always coming up with new taco creations. Okay.
You've broken your own rule there, Tish, because you did a lot of elaborating there.
I did break my own rule. I guess because I get to be the host, I can elaborate a little bit,
so
right?
About tacos.
Okay. This is going to be the hardest question for you of the whole podcast. Okay, Emily, what is your favorite thing about Wakelet?
The people. Easy.
The versatility of the platform.
The community.
Oh.
No, I love the community.
Yeah, I have to agree with Emily. The people make the product so much better. And it's the community is incredible. Okay, Amy, you ready?
Yeah. I'm taking this
What is a
serious.
song? I know. What is a song that you could not live without? So if you were on a stranded, like desert island, stranded on this island, and you could only have one song playing to you for the rest of your life on this island, what song would it be?
I've got it. Kings of Leon, Rock City.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Diana Ross, Upside Down.
Good choices. I'm really under pressure now to think of a good one. The only thing that's in my head is I Will Survive.
Love that.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah. That's not a bad thing.
No, you win. You win, Emily. That was great. Okay, and so our very last rapid fire question. and we'll have Emily start us off. What is one thing you are grateful for right now?
Oh, one thing. Can I make it two and say friends and family?
Sure.
There you go.
I was going to say family as well. Yeah, family.
I mean, can I third it?
Sure.
No, I am.
You can just say pizza if you want.
Yeah, that's true. I'm very grateful for pizza. I'm always grateful for pizza. But just where I'm at the moment. That's what I'm grateful for.
Yes, I would agree. I'm grateful for all of you. I'm grateful for the community. I think that's one of the things about gratitude is being grateful where you are, even when it isn't maybe the place that you want to be. Just being in gratitude in that moment, it really teaches us to be grateful all the time. And then gratitude becomes our autopilot mindset, which is really what I have been practicing all my life. Thank you all for joining me today. For the Women in EdTech podcast, the Women of Wakelet. I call you all the Wonder Women of Wakelet. I'm trying to get Ellen Sam to create us a logo.
There was mention of capes as well, by the way.
Yes.
I was going to say, someone's thought of an outfit already.
The blue capes. Yes. Yes. But thank you all for listening. Make sure that you follow Wakelet on all the social media accounts. We're on LinkedIn. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. We're not on TikTok, but maybe we'll change that. Maybe we can be on TikTok one day. And then check out all of the resources for this episode, and also go find all the other episodes. There's lots of great content out there from all of the Wakelet podcasts from the past at wakelet.com/@the Wakelet podcast. And we will see you again next time.
Thank you,
Thanks, Tish. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.